What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Thank you for joining me for another replay battle. Today I've got something pretty exceptional to show you. I've been playing Warhammer 2 with Radious Total War, a mod that I have been very hesitant to use for quite some time. Years, in fact. I found that in previous iterations of Radious, they would add things that would fill in deliberate gaps in rosters and things like that, and would just take away from unit flavor. There's just generally a lot of bloat. I am pleased to say that I was pleasantly surprised when I played the Warhammer 2 version. It's a lot of fun, and I find that it actually enhances factions' identities. So, for example, one of the games in here is a Beastmen versus Wood Elf matchup, and I really felt like the Wood Elf army played like a host of Azerai should. Very reliant on their archers. Their infantry is mostly there to hold the line. Gotta really use your magic and things like that really well to succeed as them. So I think it's changed for the better, and I'm really excited to show it to you. So I mentioned just a few moments ago that one of the games is a Wood Elf versus Beastman matchup. That's because you're getting two games for the price of one. There is a High Elf Skaven matchup on a gigantic hill with a lot of really cool different units that add a lot of flavor to the faction. And there's, of course, our Beastmen, our classic Beastmen versus Wood Elf game. So I think you guys are going to enjoy this, and without any further ado, let's get into the army comps and then into the replay itself. Although I will mention very quickly that army comps are just going to be shown on the screen for you. That's because I don't know a lot about this mod. I've only ever played, this is actually the first two games that I played, you're going to see right now. And I thought they were a lot of fun, but I don't know a lot about strengths and weaknesses, how units match up against one another. I'm just going on what my guts tell me from playing normal Warhammer 2. But in any case, let's get into the replay, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So my strategy going into this game, given the terrain features that I've been given, I want to sit on top of this hill, and I want to bombard him and make him come to me. But there is an unfortunate reason why I can't do this. Now, the Reaper Cloud bolt throwers are very good, especially taking down heavy infantry, or not heavy infantry, but just infantry in general, things that don't have a whole lot of armor. So they're going to chew through these clan rats, and in massive volleys of fire, they're going to be able to chew through just about anything that the Skaven can bring to bear. But this is the big issue. This is the monkey in the wrench, the fly in the ointment. These very powerful Skaven plague claw catapults, they're going to open fire on my main line, and the effect of that is going to be very devastating. A nice direct hit there into my Lothern Sea Guard and into my front line chaff. A couple of nice big hits there. You can see quite a lot of damage has already been done. And look at this, going to follow this up with another volley over here. It's going to crush my poor Sea Guard, who have taken a significant amount of their HP and damage already. My archers and my second line already beginning to take some serious casualties. So I'm going to move up with my dragons, and my plan is going to be to try and focus on his really important reserve unit. So this unit right over here of Red Guard, I'm going to double team them with a couple of dragons. Fire and Fury raining from the sky, taking a big bite, nearly half health from these Red Guard swords. Now, one of the things to note about these Red Guard, if I may slow it down for just a moment, is that they actually have magic and fire damage, and I find that Radious is a little bit more liberal with that than I would personally like. But that's the cards that we have to deal with when facing the Red Guard. And so they're going to be able to bypass a lot of things like the physical damage resist on our Dragon Princes and our Phoenix Guard, for example. So you can see my High Elven host has assembled at the bottom of this hill, and I'm now free to open fire on that front line with my archers. I'm going to try and thin them out as much as I can and sweep them away in a first charge. If I can do that, then I can get into the Skaven second line very quickly and just continuously put a lot of pressure on their forces and just keep them on the run. You can see just the damage that my artillery pieces are doing. Counter fire from the plate clock catapults, claiming the lives of many of my bowmen. Yeah, these clan rats already beginning to rout, and so far my plan is succeeded. So I'm going to move up with my dragons again, get them into a position where I can use some bombardment spells and try and thin out the more powerful Skaven elite. So that by the time I break them with my front line and make it to their elite forces, I'm going to be able to deal with them quite efficiently. So a nice fire breath there into the Red Guard with swords, taking down at least a third of their health, at least. A lot of damage being done there. So the Skaven player, this is Sawbones McTavish, by the way, is going to counterattack with a vicious charge from the Warpstone Hell Pit Abomination. It's going to go right through my front line. at 2 separate points, and the Skaven are going to follow them. That was a very nicely timed attack there by Sawbones McTavish, summoning a unit of his clan rats at the same time as his Warpstone Abomination pierced my line. You can see me using my mage with high magic to just rake the Skaven line, trying desperately not to get bogged down amidst the Vermintide. My second line still waiting its opportunity to get stuck in. The Warpstone Hell Pit Abomination is going to make the choice for them, though, so I'm going to be obliged to send these guys forward and to get them in there and try and support the Spearmen. Back here you can see I've taken quite a lot of damage, actually, just from the Plague Claw Catapults and from Lord Skrok's constant bombardments. Got some of my elite units here. My Lothern City Spears, very elite, but already at like a third of their health. Over here you can see my Phoenix Guard fighting hard against the Red Swords. I thought that this would be an easy matchup for an AP unit like the Phoenix Guard against something that's heavily armored like the Red Guard. But unfortunately I didn't realize they'd be missing 30% of their mitigation because of their magic damage. So I actually threw in one of my Moon Dragons as well to try and help expedite the process in breaking through the Skaven right flank. Over here you can see that I tried to make a press with my Silver Helms, but unfortunately they got themselves caught out by some Bone Breaker. These are the Bone Breaker Rat Ogres. They did a lot of damage to one of those units of Silver Helms, so I'm going to activate them again. Now that I see that Sawbones McTavish has lost micro on them, I'm going to try and get them through this big gap here in the line. I see some Red Guard reinforcements moving in to push back my Phoenix Guard and my Dragon. This is where my left flank really starts to come under some heavy, heavy pressure. I do not have the troops available to me right now to deal with that push from the Red Guard. Now, if we look over here in the center, all hell has broken loose. You can see I've managed to hold back the Skaven front line for the time being, but those Hell Pit Abominations, those Warpstone Hell Pits, just doing so much damage. They've really thinned out my line here in the center, and all I've got is a reserve unit of my Red Ribbon Swordsmen to try and keep that gap in my line from becoming a catastrophe. Now over here you can see some of the Clan Rats being summoned on top of my Archers. This is exactly why I brought my Lothern Sea Guard and kept them in the back, so they could defend my ranged units in just such an eventuality. Where you can see a really nice breath going down into the Clan Rats with shields. You can see the Red Guard getting caught up in there as well. But the Red Guard are now pressing back hard. Again, the same situation. Sawbones has picked his targets exceedingly well. The Red Guard against my Phoenix Guard is not going to be much of a fair matchup. See, we've broken a lot of his big monsters, though, thanks to my Phoenix Guard. But at the moment, my front line desperately needs some help. So I'm going to throw in my Prince into the front line. You can see him doing a lot of damage to those Red Rats. Looks like the Skaven are going to manage to break through here. My Red Ribbon Swordsman just not able to hold the line any longer. Now let's take a quick look at what happened over here, because I didn't have a chance to show you because there's so much going on. Now, the wreckage of my artillery pieces, Sawbones really chose a good time to spring his ambush. Most of my forces were committed down the hill, and I just wasn't able to get things up here in time in order to save my artillery, which would be really useful right now for targeting blobs like this, or blobs like the Red Guard over there on my right, or my left flank, rather. So Sawbones has really, I think, put the nail in my coffin at this point. I've had to commit a lot of my elites here, the Spire Guard of Tor Yvresse, for example, and the Wardens of the Annually Mountains, who are a halberd unit similar to the Phoenix Guard. I think they've got some anti-magic abilities and things like that as well. Very expensive, though. You'll never be able to bring a whole lot of these guys in a single army. Over here, my Spire Guard of Tor Yvresse, another great sword unit. They do lack certain things that the Lord Masters don't have. They don't have the deflection chance, for example, and I think their stats are maybe a little bit higher, but I think they've got less numbers. They also have magic attacks that makes them particularly useful against units weak to that, which these Skaven Black Clan Rats most certainly are not. And they happen to have Armor Sundrays. This is a tough fight for my elites who are struggling to hold back this massive blob of Skaven Clan Rats. And over in the battle line, you can see that my forces have really disintegrated. My Phoenix Guard here have held the line for a long time. Still very, very much able to be an anchor for the High Elves in this mod, but the Red Guard with their swords and their halberd backup is going to be able to overrun them. Over on the flank, you can see a few of my Phoenix Guard still remain. We've managed to... we didn't beat the halberds, that they just repositioned themselves. Now beating down what remains of my Red Ribbon Spearmen. This is a really tough position for me to be in. Oh, my poor Swordmasters of Hoa taking a big shot from Lord Skrok. Over here you can see my Swordmasters teaming up with my with my prince to try and drive back these plague monks and these clan rats, which they are going to be successful in doing. Over here, a little bit of reforming, moving in with my Lothern Sea Guard to defend my archers and a reasonably healthy unit of archers. Starting to put a little bit of fire here into this Skaven right. This is their right flank. Sawbones unfortunately has lost a little bit of micro here, so we are going to have time to just pelt these guys down. You can see the last Bonebreaker Ogre falling to that accurate arrow fire. But once these guys get their rears in gear, they're going to be able to run right over these Lothern Sea Guard and the archers that they're defending. Over here, my prince fighting some of the Black Rage Rat Ogres who are doing really well against them. I think they have armored piercing, armored... No, they're anti-infantry and they have poison attacks. That's what. Now, this is important. Lord Skrolk, very, very low. Critically low, in fact. Trying to snipe him out with a soul burst, I think, from my mage with high magic. Unfortunately, that cowardly rat is going to be able to skitter away, and I'm not going to be able to stop him. Over in the back here, you can see I've got some Dragon Princes in the back line. These guys have swooped in and managed to silence, I think, one of the Plague Claw catapults. Actually, both of them at this point. So the Skaven artillery is offline. I was able to repay Sawbones in kind for what he did to my Eagle Claw boat throwers, but unfortunately, my Dragon Princes have really suffered heavily at the hands of the Skaven forces defending the rear. Now I see an opportunity here with my Dragon Princes. I'm going to take them and I'm going to throw them right at Sawbones Lord and try and snipe him out in a single charge. If I can kill this Skaven Lord, maybe I can rout what remains of their army. Now it is important to note that units in Radious will fight for much longer than they do in Vanilla, so the pacing is a lot better. At least in my opinion, I find the pacing to be a lot more interesting because you are able to fight for longer, and therefore tactics and decision-making makes a larger impact on the overall battle. But with the loss of their general, even a faction like this, or especially a faction like the Skaven, rather, would be inclined to flee. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to catch him. Lord Skrolk is going to flee, summon a unit of clan rats to save him as well. Vermin, the Menace below going down, and Sawbones moving in with a unit of Red Guard Halberds, who are going to really just destroy my Dragon Princes. Unfortunately, they're going to be able to rout them before Lord Skrolk is able to be defeated. 151 health. That could have been the game changer right there. So the rest of my army is in ruins. Sawbones definitely ascendant. A lot of it, especially in the center, thanks to these Warpstone Hell Pit Abominations. I just did not have an answer to them. My anti-large was largely concentrated out on the flanks, and they ended up getting some really unfavorable engagements with those Red Guard rats, and they just weren't able to bring the value that I needed in this fight. So up here we've run down most of the Black Rat Skavens, these surround, plus a little bit of support here from my Mage with High Magic and my General. We're able to see them off. Mage with High Magic going to cast a nice heal there. Apotheosis going down on my Prince. My Prince is going to try and stay in the battle for as long as possible in order to keep his forces together. And the Spire Guard Artillery rests, just kind of walking through what remains of those Skaven. All of those Black Clan Rats are now fleeing for their lives. Over here I have a little bit of reformed units here. The Lothern City Guard with swords are going to be able to handily see off those Plague Rats and finish that engagement in their favor. But unfortunately, they're going to be completely cut off from supporting their units up on the hill. If you look at this, the Hell Pit Abominations again being a complete terror, charging right through my Halberds. My Halberds are going to turn around to try and face them, but unfortunately, this means they're going to be attacked in the rear by another Hell Pit, plus the rest of the Skaven force. So my Prince trying to do what he can to keep his forces together, but unfortunately there's just too many strong counters here. Another Apotheosis going down on my Prince. Nice heal, going to keep him in the fight for a little bit longer, but these Warpstone Halberds are going to be a complete nightmare for him. And as you can see, some of my my Halberds here are actually beginning to rout. Very unfortunate, so that really just leaves the Spire Guard of Tor Eve to hold the line, and it's not going to be enough. They don't have the bonuses that they need. My Mage with High Magic now fleeing. You can see down here the Rat Ogre Bonebreakers, what remains of them, have seen off my Lothern City Guard, and that's going to be a pretty crushing defeat for the forces of Ulthuan. Although it has to be said, all that this Skaven really have left is their Elite Corps. I just was not able to do the damage that I needed to Sawbones' Elite Corps. I wasn't able to kill his Lord, and a lot of my important units got bogged down in fights that they were just not equipped to win. So that's it for this particular 1v1. Let's move on now to our Beastmen versus Azurai matchup. Well, that's my bad. I know you guys like to see the statistics at the end of the battle, so there you are. my High Elf army really underperformed, especially my Phoenix Guard. Look at that. 1305 Florins to take units that barely between the two of them managed to get 10, didn't even between the two of them manage to get 10 kills. Over here, Sawbones' Skaven army performed reasonably well. The Sling's got a lot of really nice kills and just did a lot of HP damage all around. His army performed much better than mine did, unfortunately. So let's move on now to the second replay. So this time around, seeing as my frontal approach has failed, I'm going to try a new tack. Now, my Wood Elf army is very, very heavy on the skirmishes. You can see it up there in the corner. There is a lot of bowmen to go around, and some of the best, in my opinion, the best skirmishers in the Wood Elf lineup are these Glade Riders with Hagbane tips. Those poison attacks slow down enemies and just generally cause havoc while forces are trying to chase these guys. So the Glade Riders with Hagbane tips, really, really useful. So I have them front and center, Vanguard deployed out in front to get off some early harass. I'm going to support them on the flanks with a couple units of Deepwood Scouts with Swift Shiver Shards. Damn, that is hard to say really quickly. And over on the other end, I have a couple units of Swift Shiver Shards as well, although they are hanging back because of the presence of these cavalry. Look at this, we had a couple of the Gore Hoofs. Now, I don't know very much about these guys, but I know that they are very, very strong, much stronger than my Glade Knights. So my Glade Knights here are going to take a big charge from both of those units of Gore Hoofs, which is going to allow this other unit of Glade Knights to move in and surround these guys. At the same time, I've got my third unit moving around, looking to get a nice charge from the rear, and they're going to connect hard against these Gore Hoofs and do a lot of damage to them very quickly. So despite the fact that the Gore Hoofs have a quality advantage over my forces, our sheer numbers are going to allow us to wrap around them and just deal a ton of damage really, really quickly. Now over here we can see a Feral Manticore. Sawbones, I think, is just maybe testing my defenses, trying to see what I will do. I'm going to throw his Manticore in there to try and deal with my Hagbane tip Glade Riders. I'm going to pull them out of that fight as quickly as possible. Now Sawbones moving forward with all of his troops. He's got very much a rush army. He's got like 4 units here of the Bestigors on the front lines. He's also got a lot of Tzeentchian and Slaanesh themed units. You can see some Slangors here charging up to consolidate whatever gains those Bestigors make. And this end, I believe, is the Slaaneshi end of his army. So he's actually got, oh, these guys are really cool. The Zangors, and they have this weird magic thing that they, it's like an aura that they cast around them. And it does kind of screw with your frame rate a little bit. So bear that in mind if you decide to download this mod, but it just looks so cool and so Tzeentchian. But over on the other end, we can see some more Tzeentchian unit. We got some Zan Bulls backing up. I think these are the Slan Bulls. Yeah, so there's a lot of very strongly chaos flavor units in this mod, and I absolutely love it. So now those Beastmen are going to charge towards my front line. The first line is going to, of course, be the Minotaurs. They're going to go hard at my Eternal Guard with Shield, who are just not going to be able to stand up to it, just getting bowled over, thrown all about like ragdolls. Now my second line here of skirmishers is opening up on the Tzeentchian and Slaanesh forces as they move in. Now Sawbones does not have numbers, but what he does have is strength, and my force is mainly a holding army. So my Eternal Guard there are going to try and hold the line as best as they can. You can see just hundreds and hundreds of Beastmen pouring in, and they are not going to be equipped to fight them when they've got the not Doom Bull, but like Slan Bull and Minotaur backup. Down here in the center, my Eternal Guard just getting massacred by the Slangors. Luckily, I've still got some more units still to come. Now, look at this. Sawbones going to spring his trap on the other end. He had a third unit of Gore Hoofs, but unfortunately for him, I managed to see them, so I kept some units back in reserve. You can see some elite spearmen here, the Guardians of Athelwith, but Sawbones is going to be able to scoot around most of that formation, bowl over those spearmen, and get right in to my Deepwood Scouts and into the back of my Wildwood Rangers with shields. So that is a really powerful charge, and not one that I saw coming. There's a lot going on right now, a very chaotic battle unfolding before us, and I just didn't see it, and it's really going to cost me. My Deepwood Scouts suffering quite heavily. My Wildwood Rangers, that is normally a fight they would win from the front, down to half health. And you can see my Deepwood Scouts here. I'm starting to recover a little bit, being able to lend some range support to those Gore Hooves, but unfortunately I just haven't committed my Spearmen there to try and drive back that attack on my left. Now over here in the center and on my right flank, this is really where the battle is going to be decided. This is where most of the Beastmen forces are, and this is going to be when I have to do something decisive with the Asarai. And as I mentioned earlier, they very much rely on their archers and their magic. So if you look here, you can see some magic spells about to go down. This is going to be a couple of dragon breaths there, just piling into this blob, and that's going to be followed up with a charge from those dragons. I believe also, yes, over here we have some dwellers. I think there is a dwellers below that just went down. Now, those two dragons charging in to my left is going to be enough to not shatter, but terrify a lot of these Ungor spearmen, send them fleeing from the battlefield. Over here, I've begun to surround the Beastmen blobs with my Deepwood Scouts, and I believe I've also got some of my, yes, I do have some of my skirmishers in the back here trying to harass these Cygors and keep them busy as well, and they're just pounding away at my lines. But on this flank, I've managed to surround him with a lot of archers, and over here, I'm doing the same thing as well. I got my Wildwood Rangers, I got another unit of Deepwood Scouts over here as well to lend some aid. Now in the back here, I got my Glade Riders with Hagbang tips, running strafing attacks against the Slangors, firing into the rear, and so far we've managed to contain the Beastmen first charge, and now they're going to begin to run out of steam, I think. Some glorious violence here in the center. My Forest Dragons really just doing work against the Beastmen. The Slangors and the Bestigors are going to be able to stand up to that for a while, but ultimately the Beastmen just don't have the anti-large that they need. I don't think they expected 3 Forest Dragons to be this big of a problem for them. Now I've managed to recover in my center for the most part, though there is still this unit of Chaos Spawn that was used to break my center and flood through with Morgur and a whole bunch of other forces besides. They've managed to disrupt my Glade Guard for a while, but unfortunately those Chaos Spawn not going to be able to stand up for too much longer, and I am starting to recover, and that's going to allow me to just pour fire into the Beastmen blobs. Charge from the rear now with my Forest Dragon. That may be too much, I think, for these Slan Bulls to handle. I'm going to charge at the same time with my Guardian's Vathal Whip into those Slan Bulls. It's a lot of anti-large and a lot of big, scary beastie units, and that's going to be enough to make these Slan Bulls think twice about coming to Athaloran. And it looks like they are starting to waver and are going to begin to flee in the face of this combined arms approach. So I've got my Guardians and my Beasts here with shields being supported by my archers in the back line. Now that I've managed to clear out the Beastmen center, they did manage, we didn't see it, but they managed to smash through with Morgur and a few other units, but I've managed to drive them back, and I'm now just surrounding the isolated pockets of the Beastmen line, slowly but surely rolling up what remains of their forces. I think it's fair to go ahead and fast forward. I can see some more Beastmen forces here routing in the center. A lot of Slangors and Zangors just not able to stand up to my forces. Over here I got my Glade Lord seeing off a whole bunch of routing units. Gonna pop down a Prey of Anathrama on the Bestigors and use that to hold them in place, kill them, make sure that they don't come back, and actually to pop down a breath attack on them at one point. Or on this end, one of the Cygors falling, just being chomped to death by one of the dragons. That's going to be pretty much all she wrote. Most of the Beastmen regular forces are in full retreat except for this small pocket over here. Somehow Morgur the Shadowgave, with his hefty regeneration ability, is going to be able to stand up for much longer than the rest of his army. So now it's time to bring out the big guns. Got a couple units of Forest Dragons descending upon the Shadowgave, Morgur the Changer. And he's going to be in some serious trouble. In the back here, an Awakening of the Wood being popped on those Zangors. That's going to be enough to make them flee in the face of my Forest Dragons and my Mighty Magic. Let's fast forward a little bit here. Morgur the Shadowgave just getting punted around by these dragons. They're just using him as a plaything. It's only a matter of time before Morgur takes enough damage that he begins to crumble and his morale is reduced to nothing. And there you go. You're going to have a rout there. Some of these Zangors now fleeing in the face of the overwhelming might of the Asarai. There's one unit here that was thinking about coming back, but unfortunately, they're going to run right through a unit of shattered Zangors and flee themselves. And that is going to be it. This is a Pyrrhic victory, although I did very much have a lot of my army left at this point. I did really well against Sawbones' forces this time around, just because I was able to pick my engagements a lot better. He had to charge my predominantly spear wall, my holding force, with a lot of his large infantry, like his Minotaurs and things like that, for example, his Zanbulls, his Slanbulls. And the rest of his infantry was just really vulnerable to constant sustained missile fire. So I was able to pull off a pretty solid victory that time around. So that's it for the replay. I hope you guys have enjoyed it so far. And if you want to see me do things like this in the future, I will absolutely do that. I want people to enjoy Warhammer, and I want to try and do it in a way that is exciting and that is something that at least you look forward to. Not as much as Third Age, no, of course not, but at least a little bit. It's a really good game, and Radious is a pretty solid mod from what I've seen, though I will admit I've only ever played these 2 games that you've just seen. But yeah, Warhammer has a lot of potential, and I think that it can be a lot of fun, and there's a lot of... It's not the same kind of tactics as Medieval 2. There's different things that you have to think about, like you think about comp a whole lot more, building around sometimes an entire mechanic or just one unit, like the Dragon Prince Rush build that we saw before Mortal Empires came out and things like that, or you can build it around really pummeling people with your magic. So there's a lot of potential in Warhammer, and I hope that you guys will embrace it as I have, and or at the very least give it a chance. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.